Hello, Black Ice players. This is Gamer 1745, and this is a special episode that is directed at Revolverheld, the maker of German Gameplay Augmentations, a great mod. Don't want to have anyone not think isn't a great mod, but we're going to be evaluating a particular aspect in which these are some scripted invasions of a sort. Raids might be a particular term for them. And so, everybody's welcome here, and I think this is a good evaluation, will be, of what you're going to be getting if you not just play the mod, but if you accept some of these raids. And I think they are somewhat random, but they're randomly firing scripts, right? And hello, Revolverheld. I do think your mod is great, but I do have some criticism. These are constructive criticisms. All right. It's right now September 41, just to give everybody a time frame. We've had two scripted invasions right around this area here that fired all the scripted invasions that I can recall have happened in 41 so far, just as a general piece of information. So two fired around here. One recently fired over into Brook. That's why we still see some units nearby here. Now, when these fired, all of this coast was Axis controlled, as well as Malta was still Axis controlled, or was Axis controlled at that time. This was, for some reason, it went over to Germany, but the invasion was actually started by the Italians, the one that took it, and had more Italian units. So I don't know why the precedent for Germany to get control there, but okay. So the Allies do control Gibraltar, or Britain, but yes. Now, I really think, now this can be debated maybe, but I really think, and I get the idea, and this is to challenge the player. That's good. These are not historical invasions. I understood that when I accepted, go back and look at the episode starting this up, and I go in and I evaluate what I think of the different options for GGA. But there were, we do want to say that there were minor raids that were coming in from the coast. A few of them, and some of the significance as in a few hundred people, I believe. I don't know a lot about them, and some of them were sort of key timed around certain offenses, I believe, and they were meant to be quick raids in and out, do some damage, maybe try to steal an Enigma machine or Italian code machine or something as a partial objective to the raid, and then get out. And there were raids along the Italian coast a bit. I don't know if there was one in Italy so far. I'm not sure. We will talk about this one up here in a moment. But there were raids, and there were shelling of railways, including trains, by submarines off the coast. Now, I believe there are some SOE type events that have been happening that do not put units on the map. And I don't remember specifically around Italy in this region. Here there may have been. And there was a bit later, there was a British raid or an attempt to take some of these islands, which they took one, and then they couldn't. Britain could. Well, this is a Turkish one, but one of the Greek minor islands out here, they couldn't continue to supply it. Was the problem? This was after Italy had left the war, if I remember correctly. So this is obviously much later, 43 or 44. Forget the year. But so the British decided to evacuate because the Luftwaffe was just dominating the area. Not that it was so terrible for the British on the island, but just shipping in and out and air, they couldn't get any air support, so they withdrew from there. So there are some historical precedents for raids and even significant ones. Obviously, the famous one over here in yep, yep, it's the famous one in Dieppe that we all know about. So well, we'll get to talking to Norway in a bit about that. And there were other ones. So there's definitely historical precedents for raiding. So they shouldn't, in my opinion, you shouldn't be purely limited to historical ones, because you're changing the war. Hopefully, you're not, unless you just want to reenact the war, you're hopefully changing the war. So they shouldn't just be historical raids, but they should be in the historical spirit. So I am happy that there's these raids that are happening. I just say they need a better, like Germany control, or Britain controls Alexandria, or if it doesn't control Alexandria, and if it's only, and I know it can be harder to script. And this is one thing I do want to say. Please, everyone, including Revolver Hell, don't take this as a criticism of, hey, this would be easy to do. No, this is tough, trying to script out conditions. If you're only controlling Gibraltar, I don't think that these things should be happening here, these raids along here. Maybe we could argue the idea that if they still held Malta, they could do some raids. Now, if they didn't hold Malta, but they did hold Alexandria, yeah, definitely. That's presumably there's a large force. If they at least held like Romani here and Gibraltar, and you can do a bunch of conditions for these things to happen, then I could see, the idea that if they've been pushed back here, they still have the ability, and they still presumably hold Gibraltar, of doing some raids to try to reduce the pressure on the front and challenge the player. I would get and think it's a good idea. So we just need to look at conditions for these raids better. That's the only real complaint, and maybe a bit that they're coming a bit fast. But that's a judgment call that I will say that where these other things I think really should be, just how often should they happen, I don't know, is a bit of judgment call. Now here, we've had this. Now, if you only have Gibraltar, this is literally an impossibility in my opinion. I could see, and actually I did know a woman who, years ago now, who parachuted into Yugoslavia during World War II. So a little bit of familiarity with some of the stuff, a British woman. So yeah, I've known people that were involved in SOE operations, and she was a member of SOE. Got a knighthood out of it. But so the British raiding into here. Obviously, with these conditions, this is an impossibility. Yeah, I could see the idea of a submarine popping up here, and like we do have a bunch of various times spamming partisan outbreaks, particularly in Serbia, but also in Croatia. So yeah, an event that would be, the idea of this, 4 submarines popping up with supplies and a few commandos handing the weapons over to the partisans of one faction or another here, and an outbreak of partisan events. Yes, even under these conditions, I could see that as possible. For the most part, most of the Arabs, including the Italian-dominated Arabs, they don't want to work with the British. Even though, particularly in this part of Libya, I know there have been long years of Arab resistance to Italian occupation. a lot of the Arabs very much wanted to work with the Germans because they thought the Germans weren't going to bother them once it was over. Where the Italians, they were worried that they were going to be just increase their empire, and same with the other Arab factions with the British. So I don't really see too many SOE operations working in North Africa too much. In fact, it would be more likely to see though it would unfair to the AI, but more likely to see a Egyptian army revolt in Germany's favor against Britain. But that's a different thing, and possibly a whole set up a whole collaboration is staked out. That might be an interesting idea, but that's not what we're talking about here. So now, my evaluation is even if you control the whole coast, is all in Allied hands, this wouldn't happen. I know history, know the terrain. This just would not happen, particularly if Italy is still, and it is obviously, still successfully in the war. Now, this very well might happen. I mean, now raids, if either, key territories, like if Tobruk and Alexandria and, all this coastline, you can check for here, is in Allied control, I could see raids into Crete. I could see raids into, the Peloponnese out here as part of Greece, or even some other places in Greece. I could see, up into here. I could see some raids into Greece if at least Tobruk is being held. If Tobruk is fallen, maybe a raid to try to, instead of having a refugee garrison, there was one of the, I don't know if it's full division, but a large unit, like a battalion or whatever, of Greek soldiers that had been evacuated from the mainland, were fully equipped, except they didn't have any bullets, because I believe Greece was using several calibers of ammunition, and I mean literally almost no bullets. I'm not saying they didn't, out of the battalion they didn't have a single bullet, but it was just about literally nothing. So they had rifles but no ammunition for them, just because none of the ammunition stocks on Crete for whatever the caliber was. Now, other Greek units equipped with Greek weapons did have ammunition, but it was, I think, a caliber problem. And a lot of the British troops down here had been evacuated from Greece, when the German paratroopers and mountain troops and some barges landed troops and takes the island. The Germans were close to losing, even with everything else, and that was sort of a patchwork army. Had you sort of plan to cut off German aerial resupply to here, I could see a well-organized British landing to take back Crete, and if you equipped it just a little bit better than the original one, you could probably hold it from most airborne invasions. And Germany particularly does not have the naval sea power to do a sea invasion. So yeah, that I could see if you're just even holding part here. But up here, you really need to control one of these before you do that, and probably for this operation, So control Toronto and or a couple of these places out here. This, I think, the way I'm seeing them moving away, this may have also been scripted in Brindisi, but I'm not sure. Because some of these invasions do spawn, and I'll get to some of the stuff, ports. So, some invasions do. So, need to control here. Now, if you are controlling, and so this is, we're presuming controlling up into here, the Allies, for this to happen, would probably be America and pushing hard against Italy. And then this would be an interesting challenge here. So I really don't think that, I really think some of this needs to be controlled at a minimum for this to happen. So I would strongly recommend, if you're going to do it, control some of North Africa, and the raids be limited to the Greek Peninsula here. Okay, that is evaluation. So better conditions, please. I really love the concept and the challenge of these. I'm not trying to complain, Revolver Held, and everyone else listening. This isn't this whole thing bad. No, this thing is good. Just we need better checks on when it happens. And I know it's complicated, but no, it can't. I believe everything that I'm suggesting can be coded, and there are examples of the code on how to do it are out there. So I'm not a great coder, but I do know how to look at other people's code, and it's not stealing the code. It's just looking at seeing how they did it, and then building your own using their elements. Now, there was one invasion here in a game that I went back on in Le Havre that was a scripted invasion, or one of these other scripted invasions. There has been 2 invasions here by the British, and this is all in 41. This is why they've been coming a lot of them. 2 invasions here. This one really caught me off guard. 1 invasion up in here that, because it happened, it spawned this extra port here. British invasion. 1 invasion there. 2 invasions here. First one was successful, and the second one I still hadn't moved the forces out, and there was another scripted invasion up here in Bremerhaven, or not Bremer. Bremerhaven's down here. Frederikshaven, whatever. Here, there's been 2 of them there. And I think that is it. Now, I think all of these here, the Norwegian ones, including here, the Le Havre, need to have a check, or would best be have a check. And all of these, I think, have been happening after what would have been normal Barbarossa start. I think they should have a check to see, and I have not yet gone to war with the Soviet Union, and primarily because of the distraction of this invasion, that I had very few forces right here. I had some mountain troops, but the British, the AI, saw this, and it was successful enough and brought in a fair number of forces, and I was able to destroy some non-scripted free forces, I presume, meaning not costing them anything. That delay, including moving this armored corps that I had to then later move down here, that and pushing in Africa and other places, I decided to delay Barbarossa because of it. And yeah, if you'd waited for Barbarossa to have it, yes, it delayed my Barbarossa, but if you had waited for Barbarossa to happen and then have these invasions, as opposed to, and I do believe there's been other things. Oh, there was up here a raid. No British soldiers were lost. They captured some Germans. They made a telephone call, blew up some fish oil plants that were used to make like nitroglycerin or whatever up there. And so some of these SOE, quote unquote, raids that just have effects, either partisan revolt risk up higher or other effects. I think those are good. Those things I'm not talking about. I'm talking about scripted ones that deploy a core strength of forces. Had they waited for, and I was going to go, I think a May start on a Barbarossa when it started. Had they waited for Barbarossa, that would have been a real challenge. And these raids would be much more challenging. So if you have a check, Germany is at war with Soviet Union for these raids. I think both historically and a better challenge, more realistic and a better challenge. Now, again, here we've had 2 here, 1 here, 2 here. That's too much in my opinion. The one that happened down here was with a playthrough that I sort of went back because of some of the things. So it wasn't part of this same linear path, if you will. But all the rest of these are all part of the same. That's too much, in my opinion. Now, we can argue over whether landing in here or in here is realistic. I would say no, just because of geography. We're out here or up at Trondheim, or no, Trondheim is up here. Trondheim or at Bergen, yes. Or maybe even up another raid up at Narvik or something. That I would see more likely than Denmark or here. But that's being nitpicky. I will totally agree with everyone. If you're going the game, you're being nitpicky, yeah. But I think a bit too much, and should have a check to see if you're at war with the Soviet Union for these. Okay, I think that is what should happen with these. Or let me you can, I know this gets complicated in coding, either Germany at war with Soviet Union or Germany at war, it can be an and or, Germany at war with the United States. Because if the United States is involved, that's a different matter entirely. Still down here, you need control of the coastline of some way or another to have happen. Meaning, if you're turning this in, because that's all they got, and yeah, that does give them access to the Mediterranean, or yes, the Mediterranean, and yes, with that, torch landings here, yes, maybe even an expanded torch landing into Tunisia, or here once you get if you want to do these raids, Corsica, Sardinia, Algeria, Tunisia, whatever, you want to do these kinds of raids once America's in the war. Once these are here, maybe, meaning if the idea in my mind, I'm thinking now, is if Germany defeats Torch, pushes them out, the Allies still control Gibraltar, you could still do some raiding here if the Americans are in, whether it would be a British raid or American raid, you could still do some of that type of thing. So I think that is all on this topic. Now, I'm waiting for, and I was going to make this video later, but this invasion here that just, the Adriatic is just too dominated, too closed because of German and Italian air power for the Allies to be able to do that, even if they're controlling all of the coast here. So it could happen. I would say it could happen if they're controlling enough of Greece, but then you just more to push up Greece. Where here it's sort of a raid to get get distraction from the main operations in Italy. So and because to a point, yeah, I've been having some Africa Corps units sitting here waiting for Torch to happen and being ready to race there. And so they got involved in all this stuff. This unit just didn't disappear with the upgrade Revolver Hill, and I know sometimes those I think it was this unit to get upgrade. Sometimes even whether you got the name right on all of this to have it done or not, sometimes it won't disappear. I know, that's just the thing. It happens. On this now. What I had been waiting for, and I want to see, is how the Black Ice team handles other scripted invasions. Supposedly, they've improved the scripted invasion. And the way they've improved it, my understanding is that the units start at sea, technically at least. I don't know if there's any vessels there, but as in the act of invading. The problem I've noticed, like up here, is when they're put here, even though I control this province, even though I have units here, I'm attacking, and technically the way it comes in, they're defending. So any fortifications not coastal fort or speech defenses, because that only happens, that's only anti-invasion defenses, but any other pillboxes and fortresses, any of those actually will end up helping the attacker and not the defender. So may look at look at the order of battles or whatever to see how black. Sort of avoided looking at the Black Ice files because I want to actually experience them. Oh, and I'll put a spoiler alert at the beginning of this, on the description here for this if people don't want to know about this before playing. So maybe a better coding for and have these forces invading. Yeah, which I think is fine if you have significant forces that would stop the invasion. But if you're not guarding the beaches, when the one that was successful here, it just had this unit sitting there and was unable to ship the cannon back because it's just too heavy. It's 1,000 weight and it's meant to be too heavy, but yeah. So can't get it back here, but it just had this force, and that would have been overrun, I do believe, by an invasion. But I think that's it overall. I'm really loving the added history of German graphical augmentations mod. Really am. So please keep up the good work. Please just adjust some of that. It would be really nice. So thank you for all your hard work. Everybody else, if you're new here, of course, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, post a comment. What do you think about all of this? I love to hear other people's inputs. So tell me why I'm wrong. I mean, if you tell me why I'm wrong, I want to hear it. Because I know I'm not always right. But so thanks, everyone. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.